This is episode 2 of the Rise Up podcast. We're a morning radio show hosted by Steve, Terese, and Tim on Family Life, a network of stations across New York and Pennsylvania. Our podcast is a weekly conversation that'll help you think and grow in your faith. If you haven't already, subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. And find out more about our show at familylife.org.
Whatever happens today, know that God's got it. You're listening to Rise Up on Family Life.
Boy, this hasn't happened to me in a really long time. I almost fell out of bed the other day.
How'd that happen?
Well, this is the thing. People say, like, don't let your dog sleep in bed with you. And we don't. But Lily and Casey let us sleep in their bed. And so, right. And so it got to be a certain time of the night where Lily decided she wanted to stretch. And so her paws went right into my back and she pushed. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then I realized I'm right on the edge and I'm going to fall. And in my mind, I went, you're going to break a hip. Okay. And so I sort of flailed and flinched and got my way back onto the bed. But it was like really scary for a second. And I thought, did I just really get scared? Almost falling out of bed.
You just brought back a memory when you said scared and bed. I have this, and I think it's probably an illogical fear, I guess. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe something happened when I was really little, and it's in the deep recesses of my mind, which there's a lot of things back there, some of which you don't want to get into. But I had this fear of bunk beds. Always have. Now, I didn't have bunk beds as a kid, but here we go. Fast forward, we have when we had two kids, and all of a sudden they go, we want bunk beds, we want bunk beds. And Audrey, my wife, who grew up with bunk beds, said, great idea. I'm like, no, we can't have bunk beds. They'll fall out of bed like Terese eventually might.
But it wasn't like they were going to break a hip or anything, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's true.
You also don't have nearly the likelihood that a dog is joining them in the top bunk and going to do that stretch and push them out of the bunk bed.
Is that illogical? Is anybody here afraid of bunk beds?
Well, so you're not alone. I'm not afraid of bunk beds, Steve, but you aren't alone in your fear of bunk beds. And a lot of people's fear isn't from sleeping on the top bunk, worried that they'll roll over.
Oh, no.
A lot of people are afraid, I read this, to sleep on the bottom bunk because they're afraid it's going to come crashing down on them in the middle of the night.
Whoa.
So bunk beds are like this phobia-laden sandwich of sleeping, and you are not even close to being alone in that fear. A lot of people have that.
By the way, guess who won the argument discussion, we'll say, of are we going to get bunk beds for the kids or not?
I'm going to guess that Audrey won.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
Yep.
We had bunk beds. Now, is anybody going to ask, did anybody fall out?
Didn't we fall out?
Yeah, pretty soon from the top bunk, our son fell off.
No.
Yeah. He was okay, but, it was one of those parent moments, but more of a spouse moment that I had to hold back and say, see, I told you so.
You can't say that.
No, I didn't. I didn't say that. In my head, I did.
Like, how many times do you want to say that?
Yeah.
But have you ever been on the receiving side of that, and have you wondered when the person doesn't say, I told you so, that they know that they told you so?
Yeah, right. It's still it still kind of lands.
Now, I have this other illogical fear, if it is illogical. I didn't like climbing trees as a kid. I was afraid I'd fall. So it gets back to the bunk bed
Okay,
thing.
yeah.
Did you like climbing trees?
Yeah, see, fear. I'm not really I don't want to be stereotypical, but I was an only child girl. So there were like a million other things I was doing besides climbing trees and I didn't have any siblings. So there were no bunk beds in my world.
Right.
No,
Tim, did you like climb trees?
That's true. You wouldn't have that. Yeah, tree climbing was pretty great.
See.
It was pretty great.
I would get up there, but I'd hold on tightly and
I feel like a lemur.
Right. I thought I'm going to live the rest of my life in this tree because I don't want to move or come down. Oh, illogical fears. I got another one too. Illogical fears. I'm not a big fan of escalators.
Yeah, there's a theme here, Steve. There's something to work through with this. I think
the going up, going down thing.
It's right.
Are you afraid like your shoe's going to get chewed up and then it's going to take your whole body into the escalator?
Yes, like the paper shredder, like a green light of doom at the end, where it's just like this collapsing teeth coming
and there are
together.
Accidents. I mean, there are accidents in bunk beds. There's accidents in climbing trees. There's accidents on escalators.
Sure.
So it's not a totally illogical fear.
Not totally.
No.
Now, here's the illogical part. If you thought that was illogical. I have all those fears I've already been told about, falling out of higher places. I'm probably the only one of us three who has skydived, jumped out of an airplane.
Yes.
On purpose.
So, I'm afraid of the height of a bunk bed, but I will get into an airplane and I will leap into nothing but air and cascade toward the earth at terrifying speeds. You make no sense.
Yeah, that adds up. No.
Not the
no, it
first
really
time I've
doesn't.
heard that in my life.
You make no sense.
You make no sense, Stephen. Oh, if I had a nickel for every time. But I think I have maybe. I've tried to think through this. I mean,
Like why?
Right. Why am I afraid to do these little things?
Uh-huh.
But I was totally, I can't say totally happy with jumping
You're like
out
a
of an
little
airplane.
nervous, but normal.
Yeah,
nervous.
there's a little anxiety.
A
but that's-
little nervous.
it has
a
to be a
little
little.
nervous. Man,
But-
that would terrify me.
Like even today, like climbing up on a ladder. I
Right.
don't like climbing ladders or getting
Same.
up on the roof of a house. That terrifies me. Don't want to do it, but I jumped out of an airplane. And here's the only thing I can come up with, and I think this sounds a little more logical. You now, Terese, won't say, that doesn't make sense. You'll say, hey, that makes sense. When I was in the airplane, I had a parachute. I had total confidence, 100% confidence, that the parachute was going to work. So I had this comfort, this parachute, this covering, if you will. And I thought of that spiritually later. It's like, all right, if I know that God is with me, I don't have to be fearful in lots of situations. But if I'm like off on the wrong track, and I've been off on the wrong track all my life, not all my life, some of my life, that I know it's like, I feel a little more nervous now because I'm not sure where I am. I'm not sure if that makes any more sense, but I knew I had that covering, that comfort of knowing that this parachute, God, will comfort me, hold me, save me.
Yeah.
Does that make any
Well,
sense?
now that you're deep and spiritual about it, like, well, yeah, okay, Steve makes sense. We feel bad for saying he didn't make sense. That's an excellent point. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't feel bad about it, but
Teresa's like, I'm used to this.
It's just another thing.
but I will tell you, if you see a strange man on an escalator wearing a parachute, it's probably Steve just doing his Christmas shopping. Okay.
Maybe I should like put Christmas lights up on my house next year with a
parachute?
parachute on, knowing that if I do fall.
Wait, I've got it for the kids on the bunk bed. Parachute PJs,
Oh, wow. Therese.
right? They just
What are you doing on radio? You could be a millionaire inventor.
QVC with Therese Main
I want to see
selling
it demonstrated.
parachute jammies.
I want to see the demonstration.
you start to fall in it automatically. Don't they have like those automatic inflating, like the rafts on the airplanes? They say, oh, when it goes out, it'll automatically inflate. What about pajamas that when they began to descend at a quick rate, they just went like, poof, and then they were like this big padded like bubble man, and
They
then
bounce.
Yeah.
They bounce.
and the kid would bounce right into the bottom bunk, and then their sibling would be like, "What are you doing here?"
But what happens when I go on an escalator? What do I do? Do I wear my pajamas on the escalator?
So if you see a strange man in his pajamas wearing a parachute on an escalator,
Guess who? Guess who?
Hey, you're that guy I saw in the tree out back, aren't you?
Sharing the message of hope. It's Rise Up with Steve, Terese, and Tim on Family Life.
Baby really straightens your priorities out. Some friends told me before my wife and I brought home our daughter Aurora, I said, Tim, this is kind of weird. I said, what's that? Well, the fact is I used to refer to my dog, Shasta. If I'm honest, I used to talk to him kind of like he was my child. Like, no, we don't
the
do that.
baby.
Yeah, the fur baby. We
Yeah,
don't do that in this household, Shasta. Now, what have I told you? But the really weird part when you know there's a problem is that I would talk to my robot vacuum cleaner who we had named as if he were our dog. So, the dog is the child,
Come here.
the vacuum cleaner is the dog.
dog.
There's a problem. Baby
Right.
comes into the picture, something really amazing happens.
What's that?
My daughter is my child.
yes,
My dog is my faithful pet.
yeah.
And my robot vacuum cleaner is now my lowly but faithful home appliance.
How about that?
I feel bad for your vacuum though.
I know.
Because after a while, when Aurora gets up into a high chair, Shasta's going to become the vacuum. And then you won't need the robot vacuum anymore,
Promotions all around. Yep.
Parenting can be confusing.
Of course we're happy. You're here. Why wouldn't we be? Thanks for listening to Rise Up on Family Life.
Do you believe in writing in your Bible, like underlining and sermon
Yes.
notes and things
Good.
like that?
Yeah.
Highlighting. Tim, you're probably an online Bible user, aren't you?
No. I definitely do the underlining thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
in the
I love
actual
that.
paper Bible.
And you go back and you read later and you're like, oh, I remember that sermon, where I was and who the pastor was and all that. And I just think that's so neat. Well, Paul didn't think much about those notes in his Bible. He wrote in his Bible all through high school. Then he lost his Bible. And so he ended up getting a new Bible, and he started writing in that Bible. But his Bible was found by this guy named Clayton. And Clayton would read the Bible when he got lonely at the homeless shelter. So every night he was pouring through that Bible. And when he came across something that was, highlighted or underlined or had notes, he would go back and he would read it again. Like, why is this so important? Somebody spent all this time writing in this Bible. And eventually Clayton surrendered his life to Jesus. He got saved through this Bible with all this writing on it. But then check this out. He got to meet Paul. Wow. This is really neat. He got to meet Paul at church. He walked right up to Pastor Paul. And he said, is this your Bible?
Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. It's Rise Up with Steve, Terese, and Tim on Family Life.
Not going to do this story. I will not do it. You can't make me do
Steve,
this.
come on. Let's hear it.
Not going to do this story. I am not going to do this story.
Okay, it's Rise Up on Family Life. No, I'm just kidding.
Teresa's all for that. Less of Steve, more of God. That's better.
I'm kidding.
You guys, it'll be obvious why I don't want to do this story, but one of the parts of it is I'm not a hunter. I don't hunt. I don't do anything about hunting. I'm just not. Now, it's nothing wrong with hunt. I mean, if you like to do that, that's great. Yeah. I just don't do it. So, but this is a different kind of hunting where you're guided by a GPS or any kind of other mobile device that will help you find these things. These things are not animals. There's a thing. This is a real thing. People are going out hiding, and then you go looking for marbles. You go looking for marbles. I go looking for marbles, and guess what everybody tells me?
You lost your marbles.
There you go. Open season on Steve.
Well, we can't say you didn't ask for it.
Wow.
Where are your marbles, Steve?
I lost them years ago.
Need more than a GPS.
You don't have to be a morning person to join us. Actually, you don't even have to be a person. It's Rise Up with Steve, Terese, and Tim on Family Life.
If you want to do better in life, you take advice from somebody who really knows, right? Like you look and you say, who's really rocking life? What are they doing? Let me do that. Well, this one mom got some great advice from a very reputable source. Her 5-year-old son.
Oh, they know everything.
Yeah, they're so smart. She was kind of nervous about a meeting she had that day. And so her son said, you know what, Mom, you just have to say these affirmations. And he said you have to say them with your mouth and with your heart. And he said, what you have to say is, I am brave, I am loved, and I smell good.
Oh, well, that's great advice.
Okay,
right
and then
there.
he said you say it 5 or 3 or 10 until you know it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you have to say it a lot.
Yeah.
So I figured you guys should try this. Ready? Okay. I am brave.
I am brave.
I am loved.
I am loved.
I smell good.
Tim smells. Oh.
Okay, or something like that. I am brave. I am loved.
One of us smells good.
Somebody somewhere smells good.
They're morning people because they love mornings and people. It's Rise Up with Steve, Terese, and Tim on Family Life.
Kevin Williams is the guy who does weather here at Family Life. He'll inform us day or night. If there's blizzards or twisters or jet streams, eclipses, he's got gadgets that watch the air. As he observes from his office chair, writes the reports so we're aware of the flash floods and sunspots and changes in pressure. When solar flares are reaching us, they create borealysis. Kevin takes his analysis, and with great care and skill he says where they will appear. And with his weather chart stuff he imparts all through the year. He's our eye in the sky. Kevin, you're quite the guy. May your days be mostly clear.